walking on the Sea of Galilee. The gospel reports about Jesus walking on the Sea of Galilee toward his disciples who are in a boat has been variously interpreted throughout the ages and in modern times. Some modern biblical scholars consider it a nature miracle. That is, an action that clearly surpasses the so-called laws of nature. By the way, that's a good way to define miracle. Miracle is an event that surpasses or overrides physical laws of the universe. That's how it's popularly understood anyway, at any rate, miracle.
Say that again.
A miracle is popularly understood as an event which surpasses or overrides the physical laws of the universe. Yes, Lucy?
Would you say that's at stage 3?
Oh no, that's not stage 3 of gospel development. That's stage 9. That's stage 9,752. That's a stage after the Enlightenment period, and I'm going to show you why in a few. Yeah. Because again, Lucy, to consider this a nature miracle, right, in which the physical laws of the universe are being overridden or surpassed, that might make sense to the modern post-Enlightenment mind. Think about this. You have two post-Enlightenment Western thinkers reading this story. One of them is a fundamentalist. The other is an atheist. The fundamentalist reads this story and says, amen. The meaning of this is Jesus has the power to override the physical laws of the universe. The atheist says, ha ha! This story is telling me that Jesus has the power to override the physical laws of the universe. That's BS. You know what both people have in common? They don't understand what they're reading. So it might make sense to a post-Enlightenment modern Western mind to read this story describing, whether credible or incredible, the overriding or surpassing of the physical laws of the universe. Please understand, Lucy, that the ancients lived by a simple perception that whatever happened actually happened. We'll talk more about that in the second hour. And while it may have been a singular, rare, or infrequent experience, it wasn't contrary to anything, and it wasn't overriding any laws. Our ancient ancestors in the faith did not think there were laws governing the universe, physical laws. Their culture could not perceive that, interpret that, think about that, or communicate that. So if you are reading that into the story, you are being ethnocentric, and you are being anachronistic, and you are distorting what the text is saying.
The writers didn't think, let's be
They
careful
couldn't.
how
They
we
couldn't think
describe
that.
this, because people are going to think differently 2,000 years from now, and they won't understand what we're talking.
Neither the people who allegedly experienced this or their later interpreters could perceive, interpret, think about, or communicate overriding scientific physical laws of the universe. Impossible for them to think about that. Impossible for them to write that down. But yet, here we are, reading the story and reading such notions into it. Again, I tell you, miracle is a nice post-Enlightenment word. Yes.
Do we want to believe this? In the Western mind, we want so much to believe this because we're still...
Some do, some don't.
Well, we're trapped
Yeah.
in that magical thinking.
I think, Dave, we're trapped in our culture. And our culture perceives and interprets the universe as having physical laws governing it. And so, but we're also insisting that all other peoples in all other cultures perceive, think about, communicate things just like the same way we do.
And they don't.
And they don't.
They didn't.
And they didn't back then. So what we do is we either we laugh at it and dismiss it as ridiculous, or we hold it as sacred. But either way, we're insisting that the story is telling us that physical laws of the universe were surpassed. You see how I hope you see we're trapped in a box. We're trapped in a box. And you can't respectfully read the Bible until you get out of your American box.
I think what Dave...
What do you say?
They never did physics 101.
Nope. That's not in it. And by the way, please don't misunderstand what I mean here also, Eric. I am not saying or implying that their culture is primitive, too primitive to get it. No, if you're on that track, you're still off. What I'm saying is that there are many cultures on earth, and reality is mysterious. And different cultures have a way of looking and honing in through their way of perceiving and their culture, their consensus reality, certain aspects of that reality. And all I'm saying is, I'm not comparing or competing these two different cultural perspectives. What I'm saying is, to be honest in our biblical reading and respectful to our biblical ancestors in the faith, we must read the story as they present it, as best we can. And that means we gotta quiet down the American baggage. Yes.
I think what Dave might have been trying to say, maybe I'm wrong. We desperately want to see Jesus as a miracle worker. So we
Right.
perceive these things as he can do it.
Some do.
Nobody else can.
Some do. Some do. So in order for us to do that, see, we have to make him an American, post-Enlightenment man. Right? And we have to make Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all competent of physical laws of the universe. They'd have to be. Otherwise, how could they talk about overriding them? So let me get to this, and then I want you to chew on this over the break, because we're gonna love the second hour. While it may have been a singular, rare, or infrequent experience, this walking on the sea, it wasn't contrary to anything. If people saw it, they believed that it really happened. If it was beyond customary human ability to see a human being walking on the sea, okay, it wasn't a violation of any physical laws. It had to have some other than human personal explanation. There had to be some empowering other than human person that enabled Jesus to do this. Some person was responsible for that. And if you can't find a human who, it's got to be an other than human who that did it. Well, that's one group of scholars. Other scholars consider this event to be an appearance of the risen Jesus that has been retrojected into his earthly life. Okay, so this is what they're thinking, these scholars. These scholars are going, risen Jesus appeared to people. This is one of those appearances. This is one of those appearances. But in order to make the story fit right in stage 3, they kind of took this later thing that happened after Jesus died and was risen and worked it back into his earthly ministry life. Okay?
There would be good reason to do that.
Maybe, but let's see. Let's see. These scholars connect the story linguistically, that he appeared by or upon the sea, particularly with John chapter 21. Remember, that's a post-resurrection appearance where Jesus meets the disciples while they're out at the sea fishing. And maybe that comes from an earlier tradition where one of the resurrection appearances was when they were on the sea and they saw him on the sea, risen, glorified. They saw him on the sea, maybe. And now what they're doing is they're reworking that back into the earthly life. These scholars also deny any real parallels between Old Testament stories of walking on the sea. For example, Job, where God describes himself, God has walked and knows the pathways of the abyss, and similar stories in pre-gospel polytheistic literature, like Orion, Poseidon's son by the human Europa, Euphemus, and others who master the sea. These scholars correctly note that none of these stories, none of these polytheistic myths could have served as a model for the evangelists to write their story. But they neglect to take seriously the fact that such perspectives about certain kinds of persons coursing over the personified sea were quite common in the ancient world. Moreover, these scholars do not provide a satisfactory explanation of what the first readers or first hearers of such a story would have gotten out of it. We know what Americans get out of it, but what did the original audience get out of it? You would think that the author would have those people in mind. That's who he was writing for. Invariably, there is too hasty a segue to a theological interpretation linked with the risen Lord and the Eucharist among these scholars. Hey, thanks for watching. Just continue the playlist for the next part of the study. If you have further questions, this is good. They will get addressed, so keep watching. If you found value, please subscribe, like, and share. As always, questions, comments, and criticisms are most welcome. God bless you.